I live in the community of my choice.
I live in an apartment by myself in Schenectady, New York.
Right now I live with my husband.
We absolutely love making decisions for ourselves.
When I used to live in a group home, it's not for me.
I'm free. Back in the 60s when I was born, they didn't have a lot of supports for families who had sons or daughters with various disabilities.
When I lived in Rome Developmental Center, I had no wheelchair to ride around in. I was either on the floor or in a bed.
I lived in an institution called Willowbrook. I lived there for 18 years of my life. Nobody should ever have to live the way we do.
Large institutions like Willowbrook began closing in the 1970s, with people moving into group homes. The institutional mindset, however, has been slow to change.
The nature of congregate living is such that you can do things only if you're with groups. You can do things only if it fits into the schedule.
By the 1980s, a civil rights movement by and for people with developmental disabilities called self-advocacy spread across the country. People were now speaking for themselves and fighting for their rights as citizens.
When the self-advocacy movement really began telling us what people really wanted, we started to see that there was really not a very good connection between what people were asking for and what the system had gotten really good at developing at that point, which was these 24-hour supervised group homes. And while we've done a lot of work downsizing those homes over the last 10 or 15 years, we still don't have a very balanced system. We got to a certain point, that was as far as we could see then. We can see a lot farther now.
It's important for people to live independently as they can because it gives them the freedom that they need, and it gives them a sense of dignity.
From large institutions to group homes, the vision now is looking at what people want and need as individuals, not as groups of people. This vision has a number of names: self-determination, consumer direction, individualized supports, but the core idea is the same: to offer people the choice to take responsibility for planning and controlling their lives.
What we mean by individualized supports is providing the supports that people need to live the kinds of life that they want to live and do the routines that they want at the times that they want to do them.
Traditionally, funding for people with disabilities has gone directly to agencies that provide support services. Now individuals have the opportunity to control their budgets and choose the services they want and need.
The golden rule, let the people who have the gold make the rules. I think the more we can give people actual control over the resources that are being spent on their behalf so that they can make choices about what to purchase and who to purchase it from, you'll begin to see a system reshape itself.
Choice for me is so important because I feel if I don't have choice, that I'm being controlled.
Individualized doesn't mean one-on-one. It may mean 2 or 3 people living together in an apartment and having the staffing that they need, and they can share that staffing. We don't want people to spend their lives in programs trying to get ready to live a life.
People with disabilities do have choices. In New York, supports are available to help people make the move from living in group homes to living in their own homes with 1 or 2 housemates. Following are short profiles of some people who have made this choice.
We wanted to be out on our own and we wanted to live together.
When John and Erin first decided that they wanted to be together, There were certainly huge obstacles in the way because both of them lived in residential settings where they were secure and people were caretaking them. The idea of them moving out into their own life scared people to death.
Now we live in our own home and we absolutely love making decisions for ourselves. A lot of people are very surprised at how well we've done over the past year. A lot of people didn't think that we'd be able to move out on our own.
I think that John and Erin have, just by their spirit and their can-do attitude and the things they've achieved, have made the people in their lives feel good that they know that they can help them.
They're accepted for who they are, which is what should have happened probably years and years ago.
John and Erin both have jobs in their communities.
Work for John and Erin is the best thing that could have happened to them. It increases their independence. It helps them to understand they can do so much on their own without having to depend on others.
John has worked for over 10 years for a local Express Mart.
He will change the gas prices. He will clean the store. He will restock. He does a gamut of things, and he does them very well.
John and Erin both work together once a week at the Canastota Public Library.
Erin has been with us for 5 years. She comes in every week and cleans books. She also checks the books for any rips or tears, checks the back to be sure the proper information is there. She also has taken on calling patrons who have ordered books in from other libraries.
Thanks so much, Erin.
You're welcome.
And I'll put these up in the...
John has accomplished a very nice thing recently. His doctor has told him that he needs to get healthier. So recently he's decided to try going to the local YMCA. I've never seen a guy happier to be on a treadmill. He's just amazing.
As Erin and John have become established in their community, the supports they receive are becoming less formal.
I work as a volunteer with them now. I see them without services at some point using their friendships with people, to help support them.
They now call the shots. They're living the lives that they want to live.
Going to NASCAR races a year, and we go to the Poconos every year. If he doesn't get his NASCAR, he's a cranky man.
They did what is the American dream. They got married, they live in their own house, they make the decisions for themselves, and they live the life that everyone should be living.
We wouldn't change it for the world.
At age 5, Erwin was sent to live in Willowbrook, a state institution housing over 6,000 people. After 6 years, he was transferred to another institution. Over time, Erwin moved to smaller facilities.
And then I was in a group home, and then I was in the, moved from a group home to the apartment program and got jobs everywhere, like Nathan's Famous, JCPenney, Lord & Taylor, Victoria's Secret, and Kmart is the last one.
In 2006, Erwin made the decision to take greater control of his life and moved into an apartment with one roommate.
When we talk about self-directed services, Erwin is somebody who has taught us as an organization quite a bit about what that really should look like and how that should feel.
Erwin travels freely around the city and is a regular at a number of establishments in his community.
I know a lot of people in this community because I go to my job and I go to the taxi company that's around by me, the orange and white that knows me. I go to the medical appointments around here.
Very focused, real organized person in terms of his day-to-day activities. Real self-advocate, can really advocate for himself.
Erwin has also made friends with a lot of people in his community, including many at his neighborhood pub.
I started going to the pub in 1992. It's like a food place, it's like a restaurant, it's like get together, know your friends there, know the owner there, and I know the place, everybody knows me there.
Erwin is one of those guys who you just love being with. He's very independent, very knowledgeable, knows what he wants to do.
Where he's living now, I believe he's very much a big part of his community. He people know Erwin. It's just who he is.
Erwin, you're a very, very fine young man. You're going to go to heaven or someplace equally as nice.
He's very good in organizing his finances.
The 17th, I got the money order. I'm in charge of my own money, but I have to make sure I have enough money to last me till Friday. So when I get paid on Friday, I'll decide how much I need out of the bank this coming Friday, because I got to get the rent money out this Friday, and including myself.
His support is approximately 20 hours a week, along with his housemate. My role with Erwin is to guide him in the right direction. I could see Erwin actually living totally independent without the assistance of us at somewhere down the road.
Erwin has created a full, meaningful life with greater control over where and how he lives. But while he has become a valued member of his community, he very much wishes he could reconnect with his family.
I'd love to see my parents. I have not seen my parents since I was a child, and I haven't seen them since I was a little child, 5 years old. This is their son, Erwin, who's speaking, that wants to spend time and like to spend the night over at their house if they can find me, and I'd like to be with them, but I haven't seen them for ages.
Because she wanted more control over the direction of her life, Tanya, along with a close friend, chose to use more individualized supports and moved into an apartment in Brooklyn.
A lot of people really didn't think that she would be able to make the transition because she has a lot of physical disabilities with regards to mobility, and they were worried that if she was unattended by a staff person at any time that, that could put her at some risk. A lot of people at the meetings were like, "You can't do this, Tanya," and Tanya's response was always, "Yes, I can do this." She's as smart as a whipping stick. She doesn't understand the word no.
Before moving into her new home, Tanya and her friend Olive lived together in a group home.
Every night, waking up, it was screaming and yelling,
Tanya and Olive enjoy their new neighborhood in Brooklyn.
The neighborhood is nice. We have a 99-cent store. We have a deli, CVS down the street, and a nail salon.
Tanya, is the epitome of living life to its full. So if there's an adventure to be had, she's going to find a way to have it.
One of the services that Tanya gets from us is safety in the kitchen. Because of her dystonia and because of her jerky movements, sometimes it's hard for her around the stove.
Just left us on things that I'm doing. Cleaning, shopping, cleaning, laundry.
Tanya gets the support she needs from her provider agency, but she is in control. Tanya makes her own decisions about what she wants and how she lives her life.
I'm just a weather.
On Valentine's Day, 2008, Tanya met Eric.
I met Eric at my friend's house. And when they came to my house,
1 year after they began dating, Eric asked Tanya to marry him.
When I proposed to Tanya, I got down on my knees and asked her to marry me. And then she said yes.
I'm going to get married in 2011. I'm not my name. Get married in the church. Wearing white wedding dress.
And Tanya has a clear vision of her future with Eric.
Live in a house with 2 kids and my honey.
I'm sure we have some bad times and all that, but we could get through all that.
She's a born leader, a born teacher, and she lives life to the full. Could I imagine Tanya living in a group home with like 20 people, for instance? I think absolutely not. She would be overpowered by the size of the machine, and I think her voice would be lost in that. If you meet Tanya and you see how fiercely intelligent she is and how she advocates for her rights and how she tries to re-educate people about her abilities, you learn from that and you grow from that. She makes me want to be a better me.
to be able to have seen that, who she is now and who she's become, and her level of independence, and basically her whole life is different than it was when I first met her. The change from then to now is an amazing thing.
This has been a 2,000-year-old challenge to get community to accept people who are different, to accept people who may have a need or a disability or a need for support that is beyond what the typical person needs. It's challenging because what people frequently need when they're living independently is intermittent, intensive supports. They may go along really well for a period of time, and then something happens and they need support. And we have to learn how to be able to deliver that better. Family members worry a great deal about this. They want to know who's going to be there when things fall apart, or who's going to be there when my family member has a real problem.
It's not gonna be easy at this time, but as you do it day by day, you're gonna feel, hey, I can do this.
I would describe Maggie as being free, as being a true self-advocate, as being an example of an independent woman.
Monica and Maggie became friends nearly 20 years ago when Maggie was living in a large group home.
She was living at the Greenberg residence. 14 people lived there. During that time, she expressed she always wanted to work and that she eventually wanted to have her own apartment.
An opportunity arose for Maggie when someone donated an apartment to AHRC, an agency supporting people with disabilities.
Fordham Hill is the largest privately owned cooperative in the Bronx. It's 1,119 units. We refer to this as the hidden oasis, because once you walk through the gates, you don't even realize that you're in the Bronx. We started a campaign here for a bus stop because of Maggie, and we won. We're pretty inclusive here. We want to make sure that this is a good environment.
I like to be in my own apartment, so I have privacy.
With her own apartment, Maggie has privacy, but she is not lonely. Maggie volunteers in a daycare center, is involved in her neighborhood, and gets together with friends.
Maggie has a direct support professional who helps her in terms of grocery shopping, budgeting, those type of things. She doesn't need anybody helping her clean or cook. You know, Maggie's 62, she could retire, so that's pretty much what she's doing. She's doing some volunteer work 3 days a week and then spending 2 days a week at a senior center.
The simplest way to sum it up is Maggie is our neighbor. You know, I mean, what else is there to say?
Yeah, a neighbor and our friend.
I now live in my own apartment in Troy, and I've been there 4 years.
When he moved into the apartment, he had set times for everything, and we started saying, Larry, you know, people in life don't have schedules for everything. You don't have to eat at this time. You don't have to go to the bathroom at this time.
Carly has worked with me 4.5 years. Carly and I just really work well together.
With individualized supports, Larry and his staff discovered a new world of opportunities.
We're just looking at across the board how to transform, because our world is changing and we can do more individualized stuff with the same amount of money. We just have to be creative about it.
And put something like a wallet right here.
I've been working with Larry for about 4 months now. Usually when I get in, he's big on his computer, so. Larry has 8,000 songs on his computer. He loves all types of music. He's got everything from country to the golden oldies to rap. He's just very diverse with music. Usually we end up doing breakfast and then he tries to get to the mall, and Larry's actually a very, very outgoing person. He's got friends in just about every store. Took me into, it was a jewelry store the other day, somewhere I would never expect him to go, but he knew everybody that was working there. And then finally he told me to shoo so he could do his own thing. He really likes to be on his own when he's out at the mall.
He says that he's a ladies' man, and he is, but he also is very kind, caring. He'll do whatever it takes to help people.
Working with Larry one-on-one really feels good because he doesn't really even consider me staff. I'm more of a friend to him.
I worked hard several years to get where I'm at right now.
We've focused on the notion that somehow you need to balance reasonable risk with the notion of growth. What are the opportunities? What is the potential? What are the means in which people can grow throughout their lives? And where is that best accomplished by people?
I feel that a little bit of risk is very good because it challenges us. The first risk that I took was leaving the state institution at Newark. The second risk that I took was when I left the community residence. And then the third risk is when I left supportive living and came to where I am now, 14 years ago. I live on my own. It is challenging, but it also is great because it's helped me to develop into a very strong person.
I live in Comac in my own apartment. It's a one-bedroom apartment. It's really nice. Steve spent several years in several group homes. When I used to live in a group home, it's not for me.
While the living arrangements in the group home were fine for some, it wasn't a good match for what Steve needed.
There were a lot of desires that Steve had about things he wanted to do in his life, and none of them were able to be achieved because there wasn't the individualization.
With the help of his parents, Steve chose to use individualized supports and take control of his living arrangements. He was able to find and train the right staff to support him.
We're seeing changes in how he deals with frustrations. We're seeing changes in how he perceives himself and the kinds of things that he can do in the community.
Steve is absolutely incredible with the trains. He memorized the entire subway system. And at first I was like, yeah, right. But we went to the city and they break out these nostalgic trains every year at Christmas. And Steve wanted to go see them. We took a ride to the city. And he's like, okay, we're going to catch the train in Huntington. We're going to take the train from Huntington. And then we're going to go to Penn Station and we have to pick up whatever line it was from there, and we take it, but that line only runs on Sundays from this time to this time. And so we'll have to take this train back, and he's got the whole thing down. It's a science, and it's absolutely unbelievable.
After taking greater control of his services, Steve found a job that he kept for over 3 years, something he had not been able to achieve in the past.
I'm also an advocate for people with disabilities.
Steve works as a public speaker. He talks to others about being a self-advocate and about the life and supports he now has.
For me, self-advocacy is one of the best things I ever did. All I can say is that it has changed Steve's life.
Richard, he's one of those guys that have been in the system for all of his life. He went from the institution to the developmental center to the group home to the supportive apartment.
When Richard lived in an institution, he was used by staff as an enforcer, one who would intimidate and even harm others to keep order and to keep some staff out of trouble.
You know, there was violence in the past, and different neighborhoods he was in were worse than others. And, you know, people weren't, you know, overly kind to some of the neighborhoods he was at.
When he went into the group home, of course, that didn't work so well because it was just still another restrictive environment.
For him to be as open to other people in the community and staff and be as, you know, cheery as he is pretty incredible.
We have seen Rich with people that are from the churches. We've seen Rich with the Hells Angels. We've seen Rich with the policemen. We see Rich at the stores. We see Rich with all types of people.
Rich is heavily involved in the community in a lot of ways. No matter where we go, somebody seems to know Rich.
Yeah, Richie? All right. Doing a good job. Yeah.
Richard lives in his own home, with a neighbor living upstairs.
I like this neighborhood. Nobody bothered me or nothing.
He really appreciates his freedom, making his own choices. He really likes being able to go out and come and go as he pleases.
They don't go to programs, don't go to bowling. I don't like people to tell me what I do.
Rich has become a major part of my family circle now, so I have an old friend of mine who has a farm, and I know Rich loves animals and horses and babies, and she has a young baby and a farm, so we go out there, and we have dinner over there, and he gets to take care of the animals. And
I take care of the horses. I brush them and put the saddles on and ride them.
It's part of my circle. Everybody knows Rich for Rich.
It's hard not to be optimistic when you see people with developmental disabilities today doing everything. There are people with disabilities in all the professions, people with disabilities attending college. The arrow of change is absolutely in the right direction.
Those who have decided to move into their own homes, usually with 1 or 2 housemates, and begin directing their own services, say they feel more in control of their lives, more satisfied with how their staff support them, happier about the variety of things they do in the community, more fulfilled in their relationships, and overall enjoy the freedom to make decisions and take responsibility for their lives.
Never give up, even though they're going to tell you it's not possible.
Be persistent in what you want.
You just work with what you got and try to get better and get confident in knowing that you can do it. At one time in my life, I didn't think I could. I didn't think I could be on my own and cook and everything like that, but I can take care of myself.
Let's take a little trip down where we used to go. It's way beyond the strip, a place they call your soul. We'll sit down for a while and let the evening roll. Don't worry about the time, we'll find a place to stay. The people around here seem familiar in some way. Look kinda like we did before we got so cold. And in the air the questions hang. Will we get to do something? Who we gonna end up being? How we gonna end up feeling? What you gonna spend